Thank you very much, Nathalie Loiseau, for your introductory remarks. And without further ado, I now give the floor to our Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, David, Nathalie, and dear friends in the European Parliament. It is really a great pleasure to see you again, to engage with you again here in the European Parliament, because I really appreciate this expression of NATO-EU cooperation, to meet with you. And as you know, to strengthen the cooperation between NATO and the European Union has been a top priority for me since I started my tenure as Secretary General of NATO in 2014. I believe in NATO-EU cooperation because we share the same values, we share the same challenges. We are two different organizations, but we have a lot in common. As you know, 600 million Europeans live in a NATO country. And when Sweden joins NATO, 96% of the citizens of the European Union live in a NATO country. So yes, we are different institutions, but we have a lot in common. And therefore, it is good to see that over the recent years, we have been able to strengthen NATO-EU cooperation on cyber, on space, on critical infrastructure, on military mobility, and we work hand in hand in the Western Balkans, in Kosovo, and also in addressing the illegal migration in the Aegean Sea and in many other areas. And this is also reflected through the fact that, as you referred to, that earlier this year I signed the third joint declaration between the two EU presidents, President von der Leyen and President Michel, and then they participated in the EU summit in Vilnius. Ursula and Charles was there, as I participated in June. I met with all the EU leaders in the European Council. So we meet at different levels, we work closely together, reflecting the reality that we have so much together and need to work together. So I would like to commend you as European parliamentarians for supporting these efforts, enabling the strengthened cooperation between the European Union and NATO. And of course, we have a lot more to do, but we could be quite proud of how far we have been able to move over the last years in ensuring the partnership, the bond between our two organizations. NATO-EU cooperation has always been important, but the war in Ukraine has made it even more important. Because this is the most brutal war we have seen, the biggest war we have seen in Europe since the Second World War, and that makes it even more important that we stand together. And the reality is that President Putin made at least two big strategic mistakes when he invaded Ukraine last year. The first and most important was, of course, that he totally underestimated the Ukrainians, the strength, the commitment, the courage of the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian political leadership, and the Ukrainian armed forces. The other big strategic mistake he made was to underestimate us. Our willingness, our commitment to support Ukraine, to stand by Ukraine with economic sanctions, with political support, but not least with the military support. And that's unprecedented, what we have seen now, of a military support from NATO allies, from EU members, from EU, from NATO. And this is a support which is much bigger than anyone expected when this war started, with advanced artillery, with long-range cruise missiles, with advanced air defense systems, with a lot of ammunition and not least training from EU, from NATO allies. And now also I would like to commend the Netherlands, Denmark, and also Norway for announcing that they are ready to deliver F-16s, and many allies have also announced that they are ready to start training of Ukrainian pilots and technicians to enable them to have F-16s. So again, there is much more we need to do, and we need to support and sustain this support. But if we just stop for a moment and think where we are today compared to where we thought we were going to be just weeks ahead of the invasion, I think we need to recognize the strength, the commitment, not least enabled by the European Parliament for EU members, for NATO allies, for our institutions to stand by Ukraine. And that's extremely important to recognize, because this is something that needs to continue.